we'll move to item G6, financial status report. I think my iPad sucks.
We'll make this short and sweet. We're on track with our revenues and our expenses at this time. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
That is short and sweet. I couldn't even put my mic on mute. All right. Any questions for Mr. Bonet?
Just remind us in the public what our deficit spending is for this year and next year and the year after? Is there a
Deficit budgeting.
Deficit
Deficit.
budgeting.
Budgeting.
yeah, what's
So this shows $800,000.
for this
How-
year? Yeah.
Yes. However, as I showed the board with the multi-year budget projections, because we've made some changes that will become available to the board on the first interim report, that this deficit is actually cut in half
Oh, for this year.
for this year.
Yeah.
And it's it's reduced in future years also.
Yeah.
So when we present the first interim report, you will see that. You can go back to your multi-year budget projection in the AB 1200, and that's more reflective of
Yeah.
what it will be when we end the fiscal year.
Yeah, that had it basically disappeared. I mean, it was like a $4,000 plus.
That's correct.
In 2 years out.
Right.
Okay.
So we will be
So we're
updating that with the AB 1200, also with the CSEA
Pending.
projections. So that's the next time you'll see it, and then you'll see the multi-year projection with the board-approved budget changes that we've been making since July 1 until first interim.
okay.
I will state that since I was the one that brought in the OSIP when Roy was still here. Terrorism is an act by an organized group that identifies itself with whatever destruction happens on that school site.
Oh, okay. That's very specific.
Well, I asked the question.
No, yeah, it resonates when you see it. It's like, what exactly could that be? So that's very helpful. Thank you. I don't need a follow-up on that. I'm covered. Okay. Any questions for Mr. Bonet on the, and this is through August 31, so as you said. Any questions? Public have any questions on this particular item? All right, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Bonet. We'll now move on.
The next item too.
All right, on the education, now on to G7, approval of Resolution 5, 2014-15, the Education Protection Account.
This is to identify how we use the education protection account dollars. Normally, we receive dollars in the amount of $800,000, but because we were basic aid in 2012-13, the state reduced last year's amount. We're certifying how we spent those dollars. We received the minimum amount of EPA dollars last year, which was about $123,000, and they were all used in the classroom. We charged
Teacher
salaries and benefits, teacher salaries and benefits to those funds.
Helpful, okay.
And we did what other schools typically do, is at the end of the year, we did a lump sum transfer from teacher expenses to that account, so we can balance the actual amount of dollars that we use to, and how they were used to offset those salaries, teacher salaries.
Prop 30.
So, and just, I guess, to remind me and the public, for those watching at home, this came about as a result of Prop 30, was passed in 2012.
Yeah.
And it's basically the proposition's way of saying we're going to increase taxes and give it to the schools, which is how the proposition was sold. But they didn't really increase our, well, I mean, we got more money because the state got more money. But it basically, the kind of exercise we're going through here is to say, all right, here's a slice of money, which we're saying is from the Prop 30 tax increases, and this is how we're spending it.
Right.
Part of that is correct.
Okay.
So Proposition 30 did increase taxes. What it did was it negated the state cutting funds to school districts in 2012-13. So we were getting prepared for major cuts that year. Without the passage of Prop 30, we would have made some huge cuts that year. So Prop 30 negated those cuts and basically kept us whole for that year. Now these taxes do expire, I want to say in about 2019, 2020, they go away. And so hopefully either there's another proposition to continue this tax to be in place, or that there's enough growth to cover the reductions in the future.
Yeah, and just to remind folks, I think even assuming that this is going to go on for the state's projecting, hoping by 2021 we'll be where we were in 07, 08, adjusted for inflation. And that's when we were 44th or 6th in per pupil spending
So
nationally.
we're aiming for
So
44.
We're aiming
Aiming for
for
44.
07, 08,
Yeah.
but it's better than cutting.
There's that.
Yes.
There's that.
Yes, it's to bring us back up to the funding that we had in 07, 08.
Must have been a golden year. I don't recall it at all. Thank you. Right. So, any questions for Mr. Bonet on resolution number 5, 2014-15, education protection account? I do recall this last year, so this is a woeful reminder. No questions? Public have any questions and public comments on this particular item? Right. Back to the board. This is for approval, and it's pretty straightforward in my estimation. Desire to move approval?
A roll call, it's a resolution.
Well,
We still gotta vote it.
motion first.
I move.
Public comment?
I did already.
Oh, you did? Oh,
Mhm.
I missed it.
I know that's my one time I got it. Look.
I will move to accept the resolution 5, 2014-15 EPA Educational Protection Account.
Is there a second?
Sure, I'll second.
Any objections? Roll call, please, Ms. Emery.
Member Ash?
Yes.
Member Dwin?
Yes.
Member Pats?
Yes.
Vice President Affelt?
Yes.
President Dice?
Yes.
The board has approved Resolution 5, the Education Protection Account.
All right, thank